And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this segment, we are going to be covering the dunk contest. Now, the dunk contest is one of the more overlooked parts of All-Star Weekend, and it's something that I just started covering right now. As you know, I haven't covered it in any of the previous segments because we don't really know much about the dunk contest or its participants at that point. But I will say that it is a very overlooked part of the All-Star weekend, and dunking is sort of a lost art in this league. Like flashy dunking, I guess you could say. I don't really see that many people try and do flashy dunks on a breakaway anymore. Like unless it's somebody like Obi Toppin or Paul George at times. Now, people are looking at it like at least now with the NBA and how efficiency ranks above everything, teams are now looking at dunks like, oh, it's just a guaranteed 2 points, same as a layup. And with the 3-point line showing a lot more prominence, the dunking has been few and far between with a lot of these players. Like we don't really see that many people who are super freaky athletic, or like as many as they were back in the time, like MJ, Kobe, and Clyde, just to name a few. Obviously, there are high flyers in this league, and there are players who can get up there and have enough bunnies in order to get up there and do these cool dunks, but they aren't necessarily flashy with it, or at least that I've seen. I will say that I will bring the attention to players such as Ant and Donovan Mitchell. Those guys are definitely really flashy with their dunks. There have been clips and highlights of them throwing the ball off the backboard and putting the ball in the hoop, which was one of the coolest things that I've seen. And and it's starting to be a lot more mainstream for players and for viewers to see these types of dunks in game. So while the players that I mentioned are able to shoot, they're some of the best high flyers that the league has seen: Kobe, MJ, and Clyde. Now, there aren't that many in the NBA that, kind of have a similar bounce like they do anymore. Like, we all know the stipulation with Kobe and MJ and Clyde. Like, when they take off, they take off. Like, they soar to the sky. And you don't necessarily, have that many players that have that type of bounce anymore, which is very ironic given how the game has advanced. With how the game, has advanced recently in terms of in the previous years, you'd think that dunking the ball would be much more prominent and would be we'd see much more athletic dunks, much more freaky athletic dunks done by these players. But it's sort of taken a back seat and it's sort of downgraded in a sense. So the dunk contest now, the most likely participants are going to be Jaylen Brown, Mac McClung, Jamie Jacquez Jr., and Jacob Toppin. Now, you might not recognize some of the players. That's because they're from the G League. Mac McClung was from the G League. He took a roster spot on the Orlando Magic. And Jacob Toppin is also on the G League. So, yes, that's Obi Toppin's brother, should mention. But no Obi Toppin and no Donovan Mitchell in the dunk contest is I'm like, how? Why aren't they in the dunk contest? Obviously, Donovan Mitchell is, I guess now that he's participating in the 3-point contest, he wouldn't want to participate in the dunk contest. But I would really like to see them in the dunk contest because those guys are some of the high flyers. Some other players that I would also like to see in the dunk contest are Anthony Edwards, John Morant, Russell Westbrook, and Aaron Gordon. Now, I feel like those players, if they were in the dunk contest, it would definitely attract views because those players are stars, and that's what you need in the dunk contest. You need stars, players who can draw in a lot of viewership. And I know Aaron Gordon isn't going to participate in the dunk contest because he retired from it, and I haven't really paid much attention since he retired from the dunk contest. I'm not even going to lie to you. Because he was robbed multiple times from being the dunk contest champion, in my personal opinion. There was, most of the time when I see it, a lot of these voters just give out 10s for free. And Aaron Gordon received nothing but 10s. in his last dunk contest up until the very end, and that's what caused him to retire. So with that in mind, and with how easy it is to get 10s, it gets really, really boring. Not to mention how again, as I mentioned, the game has advanced from 1990 to now and 1980 to now. So with that in mind, how many more creative dunks can you do? Like, it's come to a point where we've sort of seen all that the human body can do with dunking. Like, it's come to that point. We've all seen East Bay dunks. We've all seen reverses. We've all seen 360s. We've all seen windmills. So getting more creative with dunks is a serious, serious problem. And it's a big challenge that is part of the dunk contest, being creative. And we've had so many of these athletes try to be creative, and it just ends up not working, and it ends up being really, really bad. So because of this, and because of the lack of creativity, and the fact that that we've seen a lot of dunks, and we've seen practically all the dunks that could possibly happen, and the fact that the dunk contest has been boring, there's been talks on whether or not the dunk contest should be removed entirely. So I personally wouldn't mind seeing it gone. I feel like I've seen all the dunks that you could possibly do, and I'm not sure how much more creative athletes can get by dunking the ball, especially when performances like Aaron Gordon are taken for granted. The league has gotten so bad and so boring with this dunk contest that it has to bring up G League players in order to participate in this dunk contest. G League players who are essentially not good enough to make an NBA roster and not athletic enough, quote, quote. I say athletic because right now in this NBA, you don't necessarily have to be athletic to be successful. Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, perfect examples of people who aren't that athletic. Obviously, they are very athletic because you have to be in order to be in this league. But compared to other players like Anthony Edwards and Donovan Mitchell and Russell Westbrook and Paul George, you can see the lack of athleticism and how sluggish they move in terms of their play style. Not saying that they're bad, great players. Not saying that it's bad at all, but you can see the difference. So, with that in mind, bringing G League players to go into the dunk contest, and not only that, win it because Mac McClung won the dunk contest last time, or to put on a good show, it's a serious problem in terms of the NBA perspective. If I'm an NBA athlete and I'm getting showed out by a G League player, I'd be incredibly disrespected. That's my personal opinion. But in a way, I could see how this definitely I like the idea and how it could help because it brings awareness to a lot of these G League players. And with that notoriety, a lot of scouts are going to be looking at them and seeing if they can be of use to an NBA roster. So in a sense of bringing more attention to the little guys, I guess you could say, I agree with that. I see that as a positive. But on the other hand, like I mentioned before, if I'm an NBA athlete and I'm getting showed up by a G Leaguer in the dunk contest, I would be very offended. And if the G Leaguer can win the contest and put up a good show, then a lot of the scouts, they're going to look deeper into their game, see if they can go to an NBA team. And obviously, given, how the NBA is so heavy on three-pointers, I'm not entirely sure how much attention they will pay to, how much the scouts will pay attention to these dunks. But it brings attention to them as well as incentives for winning. But as I mentioned before, on the other hand, if I'm getting showed up by a G Leaguer, I'd be very offended. Michael Jordan would take that personally. There's no way that this kid in the league that's worse than mine is outperforming me in the dunk contest. No way. But, the NBA is full of athletes. And the NBA can't even pick 4 people to participate in the dunk contest for their league. It's NBA dunk contest, not G League dunk contest. So that's why I mentioned before how I would like Anthony Edwards, John Morant, Russell Westbrook to be in these type of dunk contests because they are players that are going to draw attention. A lot of people are going to want to see just how athletic these players can be. And The fact that they have to go down a league and invite players that nobody has heard of, no offense to any of those players, but let's be real here. How many casuals turn on a TV and watch a G League game? Not many. So, given the fact that they were bringing people that aren't necessarily that famous, it doesn't help the dunk contest in terms of viewership, and it doesn't help the dunk contest gain credibility. Like, and it's amazing. Like, are these NBA players not ashamed of the fact that like the G League players could out dunk them? Like, I would be very ashamed, but that's my personal opinion. And that is something that, like, this league has lost. Like, a lot of these players, they're only competitive towards championships because in the end, that is the only thing that matters. The league lacks competitiveness in everything else. It lacks drive. It lacks people who try to win. It lacks big rivalries because everybody is like everybody else's friend. And it's like, it's boring. It loses that competitive aspect. Like, I want to see teams go against each other and they don't like each other. I want to see them butt heads. I want to see them cause problems. All that kinds of stuff. Like, it's part of the game. And that's something, that competitive drive is sort of been lost. And this is a problem not only for the dunk contest, but for the rest of the league and for All-Star Weekend in general. I haven't even talked about in detail who I want to win this dunk contest because I have no idea who will win. The last time I legitimately watched the dunk contest, I wanted Aaron Gordon to win because I like watching Aaron Gordon and I like watching him dunk. We need more players that are known for dunking in the NBA, and it will drag much more attention to this dunk contest. But that hasn't happened recently. Like, the reason why I stopped watching the dunk contest, like I mentioned earlier, was because Aaron Gordon was getting nothing but 50s up until the end, where Dwayne Wade decided to just let that Derrick Jones win the award, and I was absolutely infuriated that he lost because he had nothing but 50s the entire time. And it's difficult to watch. Aaron literally jumped over Taco Fall, and he didn't win the dunk contest. That was the last straw for me in terms of the dunk contest. But with that, we are out of time for this third segment talking about the dunk contest. So now I'm going to get into the fourth segment where I talk about the NBA. I give you an update on last night and the upsets that happened last night. So this is a new segment that I'm trying out. It's called Upset Alert, and that's going to be segment 4 of the GSMC Basketball Podcast. So tune in for that after this short break.